All right.
Hello, everybody.
Hi.
I was thinking we should meet in a park so we can stay 6 feet away from each other and be outside in the sunshine somewhere.
Soon and soon. Yes, please.
I was thinking next time if it's a little warmer, I'm going to bring my computer out on my deck.
Yes.
A little too cold right now yet.
Yes, agreed.
Excuse me, I got to talk to my husband a sec here.
Hello, Jenny. Hi, everybody.
Laura.
Hey,
Hi.
Terry. What kind of practice is it today, Laura? Still lacrosse?
Still lacrosse.
Cool.
I'm glad I guessed the sports right because, like, frankly, I can see on Facebook what sports your children are in, but it's kind of a toss-up whether I understand.
Yep, I'll turn you around so you can kind of get a quick view of practice there.
I watched some college lacrosse on TV this weekend, and it was really cool, but I couldn't understand all the markings on the field. It's not like hockey. So
No, it's a weird combo of soccer, hockey, and rugby, I think.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
None of which I could tell you any rules to, Laura, just to be super clear.
So I know nothing at all about lacrosse, and neither do like any of the other parents. So it's kind of fun. We all sit there, we're like, what just happened?
You need like little boards. Cheer now. Now would be a good idea.
Yeah.
Well, you know when there's a goal at least.
Yes, but sometimes they don't count because you have to pass like off of a face off and stuff. So we still cheer, but we could be wrong.
I love it. Okay, it looks like we have enough people to get started. So I'm going to call the library board meeting to order at 5:01. Can I have a roll call, please?
Yes. Nelson.
Here.
Suda.
Here.
Stata.
Here.
Goplin.
Here.
Etchen. Bergstrom. And Stevenson.
Here.
Awesome. I think we might wait for the next one for a little later. Is that okay? The welcome to Carlene?
Yeah, since she's not here, we can't
She's not
welcome her
here.
yet.
It's hard to welcome her, so.
I mean, she's actually coming in right now.
Okay, so we'll wait a second then.
Yep.
Perfect. Hello, Carlene.
Hi. I'm trying to get used to where these Zooms are. Everybody sends them to a different place, and so I finally found it in the agenda. Yay! That's where I usually send it, but I didn't look for it there first. Sorry I'm late.
Oh, you're good.
No problem.
You are just in time for us to welcome you to the Oregon Library Board, and thank you for being a part of our board. We can maybe introduce ourselves quick just so everybody knows. I'm Jenny Nelson. I'm the current president. Do you guys want to, Carrie, do you want to go?
Carlene knows me. Hi, Carlene. I'm the vice president.
Okay. Kyle, you're next on my little Brady Bunch screen here. So.
Hi, Carlene. I'm Kyle Severson. I'm been on the board for, I don't know, 4.5, 4, 5. I lose track. It just kind of auto renews at some point and they don't tell you, but it's been a while.
They don't.
Carrie, you want to go? Or Coral? Sorry, Carrie already went.
I'm Coral, and I just got renewed, which I didn't know, except that a friend of mine was like, "Oh, I see that your library board position has renewed," and I was like, "Yeah, yes, I'm celebrating that." So I guess this is
Congratulations,
year
Coral.
4. Yeah, thanks, guys.
And then Laura.
Hi, I guess my position's renewed then too, since Coral and I joined at the same time. Nice to meet you.
Awesome. So thank you. So welcome, and we appreciate you being on our board. So the next item, Laura Dewey, is Laura on?
Yeah, Laura is going to be taking minutes for us moving forward. And Laura took the position that Mary formerly held that we adjusted slightly. But Laura's been with the library for 14 years, so we look forward to having her. And then if you could do Laura a favor, and when you make a motion, just to say your first or last name to help Laura with minute taking while she learns people's names. Laura, do you have anything you want to say?
I just wanted to say hello and thank you so much. I appreciate Jennifer so much. As you know, she is amazing to work with, and I'm really looking forward to continuing to make the library a wonderful place to be.
I also want to thank Paul with OCA Media, who's here tonight recording our meeting. Good evening, Paul.
Thanks, Paul, and thanks, Laura, for being here and being with us. And we're excited for your new position to get started and see what we can get to. So thank you. I need a motion to adopt or amend the agenda.
I'll make that motion. This is Kyle Severson.
Is there a second?
Second by Laura.
Awesome. All in favor of adopting the agenda, say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, so we have an agenda, which is good. Public comment. Anybody available want to say anything? Okay, if somebody comes on later, we can always come back to that, so that's good. Agenda, item A, amend or approve the minutes. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes from April 14th?
So moved. This is Carrie Shuda.
Is there a second?
I'll second that. Kyle Severson.
All in favor of approval, say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, so thank you for approving the minutes. And then I need a motion to approve payment of bills and accept the financial reports.
So moved. Carleen Beshen.
Is there a second?
I'm on a
Coral,
roll today. I'm just going to second everything if nobody else is jumping in. Let's move this along, folks.
Kyle is
the
going
blanket
for
second.
it. Kyle's the blanket second. Excellent.
There you
Jennifer,
go.
is there anything that you want to share with us?
Just a couple of things I want to highlight. We did make some minor changes to the way the report looks to streamline things, both for our bookkeeping and as Laura is getting started, we thought it was a good time to revisit how we were doing. So the account number column, you'll see each vendor might be listed more than once. So it'll be listed once for each account that is being paid for by that vendor. So here you see Amazon DVDs, but then you see books. And so those are listed multiple times because they're charged to different accounts. Helps us just have better tracking for bookkeeping. And then you have a better sense of what expenses are being spent on. We also had a number of, sorry, I'm letting somebody in right now and I can't talk and let somebody in at the same time. They went away. Oh, there's, okay, sorry. We also have a number of Woodward invoices. We had a number of positions that came open some were due to promotion and some were due to just people moving on to other things. So you see a number of those at the bottom. I'm happy to answer any other questions you might have. Oh, the other thing I should mention is the bulk bookstore expense at the top. That's for a grant. It's a partnership that we did with the Oregon School District that will be entirely grant funded, but we are paying for those books. It was a 4K plus program that we did last week that was recorded. If anybody's interested in watching it, I can send you the link.
It was so good. It was great.
Yay. Are there any questions on the bills? Okay, do you want to go through the financial report at all? Anything on there?
I'm just going to highlight a few things. So the revenue, as we kind of expected, since we haven't been open, is significantly down for the year. The lost materials are on track, but the revenue for copies and fines are pretty much next to nothing since we've been waiving fines, and we only opened up for copy services about a month or so ago. So those expenses are being offset by, we have some lower personnel costs because of an employee who hadn't returned to work due to COVID. So those expenses and lost revenue are kind of offsetting each other. So we still should be in budget. I think that is the main thing that I wanted to point out. If there's any other questions on the reports, I'm happy to answer those. But that was the main thing I wanted to talk about.
Anybody have any questions? Okay, all in favor of approval of paying bills and accepting the financial reports, say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, thank you. Next on the agenda is the open meetings law memo.
So there are two open meetings law memos in your packet. These were distributed to the village board, and seeing as it's a good time just to go over those things ourselves. I think we looked at these same memos or a variation of them last year as well. But just talking about open meeting laws, all our meetings are posted in compliance with open meetings laws. And then just a reminder that you should not, walking quorum is something that many boards accidentally do. And so that means like we should not be having members talk individually with other members about things that would be on the library board agenda, that discussion should take place at our meetings, which is what we do in practice. And then also just, you should not be having any email correspondence about agenda items. You can reply to me, but you should not be having a discussion with the entire board by email. So if you have any questions about that, let me know, or you can share with the group and I can follow up. But I thought they were helpful.
Just a quick question on the walking quorum. Is that 3 people or 2 people? What's the rule on that?
So generally you can talk to one other person about something. As long as we have 7 people take action on something, it's not a problem, but you could get in a position where 4 people is the quorum at a meeting. And so you could have, 2 people could potentially defeat a motion. And so that's where we want to just kind of err on the side of caution to make sure we're not violating that.
Okay, cool, thank you.
Any other questions on the open records memo? Anything that we're looking for clarification on? Excellent. Next, I'm going to say that we went through those 2 memos kind of together. Do you want to go through the open meetings law too as well, Jennifer?
I think they're kind of related. So I don't have anything to highlight. If anybody has any questions, feel free to ask.
Okay. Next, committee reports, nominating committee.
So the annual meeting is next month, in which we nominate people for office, including president, vice president, treasurer, and secretary. Kyle and Carrie were serving on our nominating committee this year, and the slate of officers they'll be recommending is in front of you. We don't need to take any action tonight, but just so you know what's being proposed. In addition to their recommendations, we can also take nominations from the floor. So if somebody has changed their mind or would like to make additional nominations, we can certainly do that at next month's meeting as well.
I guess the only thing I would add to that, Jennifer, I think I grabbed everybody's feedback and it should be incorporated here, but if you see yourself in a place that you were not interested in, and that's a mistake on my part, please make sure you raise your voice. It's not intended to put anybody in a spot that they weren't interested. We had somebody interested in every role.
Any questions, comments? You can feel free to email Kyle. Just one of you at a time though, because we've learned that. So, okay, so we will take floor nominations if we need to at the June meeting. But for right now, we'll go with this. Personnel committee?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Would like to do that one. Should I do that, Jennifer?
You sure can. That'd be fine.
Oh, you can if you'd like to. I'm not trying to take any work away from you whatsoever. I can go over the agenda and then people can add in anything that I may have missed. And it was on April 28th. And we reviewed the exit interview feedback from our person who recently left. We also spoke about the role of the personnel committee and established a timeline for the library director evaluation. Anything else that could add important clarity for the group?
I don't believe so. I don't think we have any action items for the wider board at this particular time.
I do have a question. So there have been some people leaving and the library's opening back up. Eventually there's going to be in a new space, going to need more staff. I'm curious, as we think about being more inclusive and more diverse in the Oregon community. I guess this is not a question that needs to be answered now. It's just something that I'd like for folks to think about, is the places where we're advertising for people so that we are reaching a more diverse audience. I know that that's often, just the regular places don't always get to people of color, and I would really like to make sure that we're conscious about that.
Yep.
Thank you, Carlene. If anybody has suggestions on that, feel free to reach out to me and I can compile any suggestions that I get from board members. We can potentially add that to agenda for future discussion, either the personnel committee or the full board, depending on what works best.
Awesome. Building committee, I guess I could probably take that one. So we had a meeting, I don't know, I've given up on meetings, a few weeks ago. I have so many of them, but the meeting was basically to bring the new building committee members up to speed, to kind of go over where we've been, where we're headed, now that we have the funding needed, kind of explain what their roles will be, kind of go over some of the issues that have been laid out in front of us. I mean, we know there's water issues, right? We know that there's parking issues. We know that there's some site issues. So we kind of went through a memo that had been provided by the village of some things that we need to address, so we kind of understand where we're headed. And then we also sat in on the Plan Commission meeting. And so we listened to kind of what their thoughts are for some of the parking and some of those things, to try and help guide us for our next kind of building committee type things. Jennifer, did I miss anything?
I don't think so. And then OCA Media did record the Plan Commission meeting. So I think I sent it to the building committee, but not this group, but I can send that link out if anybody's interested in watching that. It's about an hour long if you do want to see it, but highlights were just talking about the competing, site considerations and possible solutions, and probably more than one solution that'll work together to make the site the best it can be for the future.
So,
yeah, can you give like is there any kind of upshot from that planning committee meet? Or not?
A little bit. Jennifer, you can.
Yeah, so two main things that are going to happen is the village zoning code for parking requirements for the category that the library would fall under. I think it's institutional, have not been reviewed in like 15 or 20 years. And so many communities have been updating that and have had a few years to see how that's worked for them. So the Plan Commission is going to work with Vanderwall to review those, review the recommendations and see if that's still the right number, or if a different number might be appropriate with just changes in time and how people maneuver around the communities. So that's piece number one. This second piece is there's going to be some exploration of the possibility of some off-site parking as an alternative, or at least a solution during peak times. And then solution number three is the village on their meeting agenda for Monday night will be going into closed session to consider whether there's interest on the village board level in possible acquisition of additional property, which would expand the site footprint, which would allow us to better position things in a way that fits for the library long term, helps us to better address the parking and water, and then just be better, neighbors with more buffers between the building and adjacent properties. So those are kind of the three main points that I took away.
Thanks.
Yep. So parking, water, and neighbors.
More land.
More land. So next would be the library director report.
So I'm going to pull up the packet. I'm a little bit behind here. So we did have a few new staff members start. We had Melissa Juvenile started as our page at the end of April. And then Sarah Werner was promoted from a circ assistant to Laura's former position as the tech services assistant. We also had Pat Lyman, who was working an 8-hour-a-week position, resign for retirement. She's been with us for a very long time, so she'll be greatly missed as well. We also have the 2 LTE positions we talked about last month, which we are working on recruitment for. And then we are posting Sarah's the position Sarah came from, which is open because of her promotion. So a little bit of musical chairs there, but it's all good stuff for our team. The new village administrator started on May 3rd. So he did come to the library to take a tour and just talk about some of our happenings and priorities. The North Main Street construction project is underway. The public works director asked if they could use a portion of the new library site for construction vehicle parking. I checked with the neighbor that would be most affected by that, and they said that was fine with them. There's an email in your packet to show you that correspondence. The fundraising sign at the new library site, which you can't see because of the Main Street reconstruction anymore, has been updated. We kind of broke the thermometer a little bit. The max had been at 10 million, but with the village increasing their contribution, it kind of became outdated. So the company made us kind of a sticker that they put over the top. And so now it's reflective of our actual funds available and raised, which is very exciting. The letter to the editor that Coral drafted and that you approved at a previous meeting was included in the Oregon Observer recently. A couple other things, our building, we continue to work hard to try to get that ready for having patrons return into the building. We got rid of some surplus furniture that you approved last month. We've really reduced as much in terms of seating areas as we can. And we've moved some things around to make them closer to the entry. Our hold shelf and our self-check are much closer. So if people want to come in for a really quick visit, they can just pop in and get those holds and then leave without having to come very far into the building. So there's some exciting changes, but we're still kind of working with the limitations of our space and the needing to keep our staff socially distanced. We're really needing to kind of infringe upon the patron areas a little bit for workspace to kind of keep in-person service and curbside going at the same time, which will be a little bit of a challenge, but our staff is doing a great job of preparing for. Last thing I want to point out is the LinkCat mobile app has kind of been not the best app, and they are rolling out a new one June 1st. We haven't been able to see it yet. Our staff sees it a week earlier, but there's going to be a lot of new features, including a digital library card. So people could use that instead of carrying their actual card, which will make it easier for a lot of people. And some other features.
Sorry, like I just saw Coral's face light up.
I am very excited because I frequently cannot find mine or one of the boys or something.
And that's another feature. You can also link additional accounts within the same household where there's parents and children to make it easier for you to manage multiple accounts in the same household. So watch for that coming soon. As soon as we see it, then you guys will see it. So, and then the last thing is I guess I went past it, the programming schedule for the next month. We will be starting our summer reading program in June, so that's not too far away. That's coming up soon. And then the very next thing is kind of a subset of the director's report is the Build America's Libraries Act. And I don't know if any of you have heard of that. I believe Mark Pocan is one of the sponsors of it. But it's basically funding that would be potentially available if it gets passed to repair, modernize, and construct library facilities in underserved and marginalized communities. So it's unclear whether we would be eligible. I tried to read some of the text, but it would still be a good thing even if we don't qualify for many, many libraries. So I would encourage you to take a peek at this and get to know a little bit about what it's about. I think it would be exciting for libraries if it passed.
Awesome. Any questions for Jennifer? Okay, communications, patron feedback from our May 1st program.
So I did include all the patron feedback verbatim that we got from emails and phone calls for our May 1st program that we did with the Oregon Allies as an FYI. We told folks that we would share their feedback with the library board, so we did want to follow through on that. The folks who called were it was wonderful to be able to talk to them. I think we had some really respectful folks sharing their concerns, and we had some great constructive conversations with the people that Kelly and I were able to talk to on the phone. We didn't have as much constructive correspondence by email. It was, not that ability to kind of dialogue about it, but we will also be using the feedback to kind of strategize moving forward, how to improve our partnerships and how to best do diverse and inclusive programming in a way that is as constructive as possible for the community and furthers our goal. So if you want, that could be added to a future agenda, but right now this is just for your information.
I just want to say thank you to you guys for fielding all of this and to acknowledge the fact that most forward progress is met with discomfort by our communities, and I'm proud of the work that our librarians are doing.
And I got an email from Kelly after the program. She said there was 83 people there and it was a wonderful time had by all. So there was some good people showing up, and it looked like from the pictures that it was a great event. So I do want to make sure everyone hears the positives as well as sees the negative emails. So
yeah, I commend you for stepping out, really. I mean, it's leadership, and that's great.
Yeah, I thought that, I don't know what your phone conversations were like, but I thought that your response that you shared with us was really good. And I hope that it didn't stress you all out too much, having to field all the objections.
We really appreciate your support and allowing us to kind of make sure we are serving the LGBTQIA community because we do have a lot of patrons who fall in that category and appreciate programming that supports them and the families and their identities. So appreciate your support on that.
I will also say that my little family appreciated the book about families that look different because we have had a challenging year in that regard, and that was very meaningful for my littlest. So meaningful in lots of ways, guys, and I'm so proud of us.
Thank you, Coral.
Excellent. Okay, the Library Buzz newsletter.
So that's just informational. I don't know if I can pull it up from here or not. Yeah, I'm having trouble opening it with my double screen setup, but if you have any questions about it, feel free to share.
Village board announcements, Leslie?
Well, I don't have village.
Oh, sorry,
board.
village board. Sorry, that's Carlene. I'm like, I'm getting all excited. You can make some up if you want to, Dr.
I couldn't be fun.
I can tell you that I've been to one village board meeting, one parks committee meeting for 15 minutes, and I've met a bunch of people. So I'm announcing that I'm here and I'm on the village board. How's that?
Fantastic. And we are so glad you're here to join us.
And I met with Jennifer, which was lovely.
Excellent. Okay, now school district.
Good. I'll just give everybody a little more information on the library and 4K partnership because it was really a fun event. It was a reading of 2 books. One is called Saturdays, And it's a story of a mom and a child spending time together on Saturdays and having a really great day plan, and things just keep going wrong. And learning to manage oneself and one's emotions when things don't go perfectly is a big part of that story. And there was also Ruby Has a Worry. And we all know that our little ones sometimes have a lot of worries. And so stories that reflect how to manage some of those feelings too. What was really cool is they read the story in English, and then they read the story in Spanish for each book. And then afterward, all of the children went and, I don't know if they ate dinner or got ready for bed or wherever they went, but they were off camera, and adults stayed and spoke about how to have conversations with your children about race and differences. And so I think there were 40 some participants, and that's pretty good for a weeknight, right? So I thought it was absolutely lovely. And the first of many, I hope, good partnerships like that, because everybody who came, as you saw from the expenses report, everybody who came got to get books.
And it was recorded, so families that couldn't make it or attend live also can attend on their own time when their schedule allows, which is nice too.
Excellent. Thank you. And thanks for the partnership. Next up, discussion possible action items. Amendment of MOU with Village relating to the construction of the new municipal library.
So we talked about this last month, but the village board did approve this at their meeting last Monday. The reason the MOU needed to be updated was because of the change in their support from 6 million to 10 million. And I volunteered to update it thinking it would be just to find and replace all. And it turns out it wasn't that simple. So what kind of triggered this is the fact that they are doing their borrowing over multiple years, which is not necessarily typical, but helps them fit our project into their CIP, or their capital improvement plan. And then also kind of matches the expenses that we anticipate having, so that we can have adequate cash flow to pay those bills as they come due. And so the main change was to 3B. So that paragraph was added to reflect their borrowing resolution. You'll see they're going to borrow $1,500,000 this year. The amount here is a little bit higher because there is a fee for borrowing, but the village is covering the fee for the borrowing like they would for their other projects. And then they will either borrow the rest next year or between next year and 2023, but both should fit with the cash flow of the project. With fundraising funds and things, shouldn't be a problem either way. I know they did just do a borrowing and their interest rates came back really, really low. I think they saved a significant amount of money on their borrowing, so that's good for them. The other thing we changed was because the borrowing isn't going to be done at once. Before they said that we would put the project out for bid before they do a borrowing. And so the steps 6, 7, and 8, the order changed a little bit just to reflect the process that they're going through. It doesn't hurt us at all. It's just saying that we will be able to borrow. One of the other things that we were concerned with is making sure that with changes in boards and things over time, we wanted to make sure that we were able to award the bid, and that even if the borrowing took place later in that year, that we would know that that funding was secure. And so they incorporated that into the language in step 8 about adopting a resolution to award the contract and to proceed with the borrowing, to make sure that when we award that contract, we know that funding is secure, which I think is helpful for us and for them. So those were the main changes. Does anybody have any questions?
Jennifer, was there any discussion about some of the needing to go back for change orders and that type of stuff to the village board?
I did look that up, and what did I'm gonna have to think through that for a second. I did look in that, and I think the language in the MOU already covers that we are able to approve those, I think, within budget parameters.
Yeah, that's my recollection. As long as we don't go over budget, we can, but I don't remember where it is.
Yeah,
I think that's what we talked
um,
about, Jennifer, is that they had said it was okay as long as we didn't go over budget, but that if we would let them know if it was a major change just before
yeah.
we did it.
Yep, so it's in 4A. It says the library board will not approve any change order that would require an additional appropriation of funds by the village board beyond what they've already approved without getting their approval. So if it falls within what's budgeted, we're fine. But if it would go above what's budgeted for contingency, then we would have to get their permission if we need them to pay for it.
Any other questions on the MOU? Okay, can I have a motion to approve the updated amended MOU?
I will make that motion. Carrie Shuda.
Is there a second?
I'll second that. Kyle Severson.
Kyle's blanket second wins. Any questions or discussion?
Gotta be quick.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, thank you. So we have approved MOU now again. Next, review of 2021 Dane County standards.
So this is something that is analyzed every year by Dane County. They have some standards that they set for minimum levels of service. If you do not meet one of the standards for 1 year, you kind of get a warning and you can kind of address it. If you do not meet it for 3 years, then you are not able to exempt from the county library tax. So it is to our benefit and that of our taxpayers if we can meet the standards. But if we were to fall short, we do have ways to address that without being penalized. There was some concern when we jumped between population categories. The standards are sorted by population. When I started, there was concern that when we jumped population categories, we might be deficient in some areas, but that has not happened to be the case. So it's really confusing. It's a lot confusing to be accurate. For this year, they did waive the hours standard, and our hours fell short this year because of closures due to COVID, but our hours do meet the requirement in a normal year. The other categories, staffing, in the other categories, if you're the min or the percent of top category, if you're over 100% in either of those columns, you are fine and you meet the standards. So we are fine in the staff total category. You can also see the staffing levels of other neighboring municipalities. And so as we grow, you can kind of compare where we fall. I'm going to go to the next category is public internet computers, which again, we meet that category, no problem. And materials expenditures, which we also meet that category, no problem. Again, these are kind of minimums. So in general, you'd like to exceed them, but it also gives you benchmarks with other communities to kind of know where you fall and what you might want to improve upon. So are there any questions so far before I go to the next page? Okay, and then there is an error in the items added percent min category. They didn't put a percent, they put a number, and that's not correct. So I followed up with them, but we do meet that one as well. And then total items, we also meet that category, and that was one I think we were worried about not meeting when we jumped population categories, but that is not a problem for us right now. Right now, our collection, we have limited space for growth, but with the new library, hopefully we'll also have room to better position our collection for the future. So we are in compliance. There's not any categories that I'm concerned about at this point, but we'll keep looking at those as we do budgeting to make sure we grow with our community.
Okay, any questions? Okay. Next, joint village board meeting and next steps for new library.
So the next joint meeting is tentatively June 7th. This memo, which I think everybody here should have seen before, was shared with the village board, the library board, and the plan commission, kind of summarizing some of the site considerations for the new library. And oops. I'm going to just go back to my notes on this one, sorry. So like we talked about earlier, Plan Commission met last week to talk about some of the site considerations. The village board's meeting next week to consider if there's additional interest by the village board on property acquisition for the new library. We also put out an RFP, or request for proposal, for owners representative services. That's an alternative to the construction manager that we were discussing with the village board quite thoroughly. We've gotten some interest in that request for proposal. The deadline is June 2nd, which will allow us to get those to you the week before the June library board meeting. Our goal is to kind of have the architect contract will be kind of next after that. We want to get that owner's rep on board to help us with negotiating the contract with the architect, to help us with that process. But we hope we can start working with the architect in June, or at least early to mid-July. We didn't want to pay the architect to do a lot of work while we are kind of sorting out some of the site things that we can kind of do on our own, and that would really impact the direction they go with the project. But we do want to get them involved early on so that they can, you know, help shape that direction as well. So right now we're still hoping to get the project out to bid in early 2022 and start construction spring or very early summer of 2022, with the construction taking about a year. And that's a realistic schedule at this point, but if there's, you know, delays, I think it's important to get right. So, you know, we might err a month or two on one direction or the other if it means getting the project right, or more than that, hopefully not. So there's no action needed, it's just for discussion. I don't know if anybody has any questions, but I just want to make sure you're all on board with what's happening.
And if anybody has any owners reps that they want us to send the RFP to, let us know. I had to do some digging, but I think we have at least a couple that we've sent it to, so that should be good. Okay, next is hiring of owners rep. We kind of talked about. Is there anything else you wanted to mention with that, Jennifer?
Jenny, can we just talk a little bit about the process for selection of the owners rep? Do you want to mention what you had shared about how we hired an architectural firm and kind of what you were suggesting?
So what we kind of thought when we did our architects, when we picked the architect the last time, we all reviewed the proposals that were given, and we just kind of put our top 2 or 3 on the whiteboard. If you guys kind of remember that, and it became pretty clear quickly who we really liked. The hope is to do that with the owner's rep, to get you guys the proposals ahead of time, so that at our meeting we can kind of put up that virtual whiteboard again and say, you know, these are who I want, and see if it's really clear, or if not, then we'll have to do some interviews that way. But if it's, you know, this is great, and then maybe we'd take the top 2 and have a conversation with them, or if it's really just everybody picks the same one, maybe we just follow up with them with some questions and then go from there. Does that seem like an okay process to you guys for that? Yeah, Carlene.
So I'm unfamiliar with what an owner's rep is and does. So if you could just define that for me, so I know what I'm supposed to be looking at, that would be really helpful.
Yeah, so the owner's rep will act kind of as that person at construction meetings that represents the library board. So that way Jennifer doesn't necessarily have to go to every construction meeting or process every pay application or review, you know, kind of the architect's drawings. So they kind of become our person to represent the library's interest at the construction table.
The project manager for the board, basically.
Essentially, yep.
Okay, got it.
And when we do send out their proposals, I'll send you the information on what they were asked to provide. So they're supposed to cover their approach, some references to other library or municipal projects they've worked on, with references and some details, their cost too. So there's a number of factors and pieces of information that will help kind of inform our process as we move forward. We'd also have the ability to interview them or check references, and take them through additional steps if needed to make sure we have the right folks to help us out.
So this is Coral. I am wondering if there is, maybe I'm misremembering, or maybe I'm thinking of something I've done with a different board entirely. Whether there's like a rubric that we can use when we're reading through things, because
Yeah.
I mean, I find A, that is a fair way to assess things, and then B, just in general, I don't want to out myself too much, but if I have a rubric to fill out, I pay better attention to the material in front of me. Is that
Can-
possible?
Yeah, I can try and put
help? in
I can
some
try
way?
and put something together, and if you want to look at it, Coral,
Yeah.
then we can kind of rank from there. That's a great suggestion.
And Coral, I think you're right. I think we did use that for architect selection. So we just used the categories that they were asked to provide information on as kind of the things to rate them on. So we could do something similar here with this.
That would be helpful for me. Thank you.
So the timing on this, just so you know what to expect, is they're due at 5 o'clock on June 2nd. So I would like to get those to you on the 3rd, so you have a lot of time to look at them. And if for some reason one person doesn't have the time to get to them, it's okay. We could use the ratings of everybody else. We just don't want nobody to rate or just to use ratings for one person. So if you need to take a pass, that's okay. Just let me know if you can't fit that into your schedule.
And it's a really well written RFP, I just want to say, let me tell you.
Oh yeah, I should. Jenny took the one sample I got from any library in the entire state, and she made it great. So thank you to Jenny for doing that.
So hopefully it's not too confusing to everybody. I hope they're not like, who wrote this? Okay, so that is the ownership information. Any other questions for that? I'll work on a rubric and get that out to you guys as soon as I can. Probably this weekend, because the rest of this week's looking a little tough with softball and soccer. So let's see, what is next? Library services and phased reopening plan. Jennifer's muted.
Sorry. I was trying to not cough on video. Starting Monday the 17th, which is this coming Monday, with your approval, we'll be opening for limited in-person browsing and other limited services. So our open hours will be Monday through Friday, 11 to 6 to start. That'll give our staff some time before we open and after we close to do things that require moving around the library quite a bit. And then it'll also allow us to manage from a staffing perspective the fact that we'll also be continuing to do curbside pickup. So to be able to offer both of those services at the same time. So we did have some publicity go out about that to kind of communicate with patrons what to expect, that masks will be required, what services will be available, and what services will not be available at this point, but might be at a future date. We are asking people to try to limit their visits to about 15 minutes, just to kind of allow as many people as possible to visit the library. And we do have a little monitor in the lobby that says, please enter, or if we're at the capacity that we set, it'll say, please, do not enter, please wait, so that we can kind of track the number of people. We're starting out pretty low just to try to manage our space and the number of people, which will be kind of a self-imposed limit lower than what public health would allow. But since we have to enforce social distancing, we thought that we'd start low, and then as we can kind of see what fits comfortably, we can increase it pretty easily. So hopefully that'll work. A number of people at different libraries are using that same system and have found it work really well for them. Especially libraries with higher capacity limits are finding that they pretty much don't reach capacity because people are keeping their visits short, which is great to hear. I should also mention in the packet I have an email and a program update from Kelly, who's working with the community ed department, the school district, to offer some programming options for younger community members. They'll be doing those Tuesday and Wednesdays for a 8-week session in the summer at the Netherwood Small Gym. They'll register through the library and then have a story time. And then the community ed staff will have an active playtime in the gym or outside when the weather's nice. Where there'll be kind of play areas, kind of socially distanced, so families can kind of come and have some active playtime. And then, of course, working with the school on the COVID precautions with masks and social distancing, kind of marked areas for families to use. So just wanted to update you on that programming initiative that you might be hearing about in the near future.
Jennifer, do you need a motion to reopen the library? Is that something we need to take action on?
You did approve that at your last meeting, so we
Okay.
should be all set based on the action you took last month.
Okay, perfect. Next, COVID-19 policy.
This is something many libraries are doing just to kind of set up expectations and have a clear way to communicate those with library visitors. So talking about mask requirements, social distancing requirements, staying home if you're sick, limiting capacity, the length of visits. I took some examples from other libraries who've been open a little longer to craft this. And so a few have said, in general, we let children who are 8 or older in the library on their own. And we still would do that. However, if children between 8 and 14 are having trouble following the rules in terms of safety precautions, then we could ask a parent to say, you know, we would need you to come to the library with your child or another guardian because they're not able to follow the rules on their own for their own safety. So the tricky part is the mask mandate, and we don't know how long Dane County is going to have that. So it was hard to know if we should tie the mask mandate in our policy to Dane County's mandate, or if we want to leave open the question for us to keep that in place a little longer than public health perhaps did. So that was kind of the tricky thing. Right now it just says masks are required. So if the public health mandate went away, it would still, our policy would still say masks are required for us until we choose to repeal that. Currently, the Dane County public health orders are usually issued like the Thursday or Friday before our meeting anyway, so the schedules line up pretty well that if they did repeal the mandate, we usually would know about that in time to repeal it at the same time, or to have a conversation about if we wanted to keep that requirement for our facility. This would require action. I'm happy to answer any questions or take any suggestions.
Carlene, you can interrupt. We are a formal but informal group.
Okay. I work with a lot of people who don't like it when I interrupt, so I'm known for doing that. So I wonder, this brings up the whole idea of masks versus people who are vaccinated or not vaccinated. And I know I personally am not comfortable saying masks are not required when people are not vaccinated. And so to me, they're linked. I certainly wouldn't want to ask you or anybody else on the library staff to be in a situation where people are not masked and not vaccinated. So that's just my 2 cents on considerations.
I think personally, as someone who is fully vaccinated, I'm fairly committed to continuing to wear a mask as long as we need that inside. I think that this is reasonable, and however you would like us to frame the overall action item here, I'm comfortable with, right? I think our staff's safety and comfort is important as we move into this, especially as we are asking them to kind of move into a totally new phase. And I find it unnerving a little bit for myself even, right? Despite a vaccination. So I want to be thoughtful of our staff as well as our patrons.
Hey, and Carlene, just so you know, I think that the theme all along has been that that Jennifer's been working really hard, and we've been supporting her all along the way of making sure that the staff is comfortable with what they're asked to do. And I think that that's what this policy does as well.
Jennifer, there's nothing about vaccination in here, right? I just don't want to put you guys in the position of having to ask for vaccines cards or anything like that. So I like that the masks are set that we'll have the option to change things as they are, but I just want to make sure we didn't tie anything to vaccination cards or anything, did we?
Yeah, the word vaccination doesn't occur anywhere in this document. So
okay, I didn't remember seeing it. I just want to make sure I didn't miss anything. So so if everybody's okay with how it is presented,
can I just say
Yeah.
something else then? I can foresee pushback if the mask requirement is if the health department says masks are no longer required and the staff is not comfortable and there's nothing about vaccines in here. I feel like there's
I think we could
I don't know. I mean,
we could probably cross that though, right when we get closer, you think? I hear what you're saying, and I don't want to. I guess my fear, Carlene, is that if we put the word vaccination in here right now, then we will have to have that discussion right now when it's not yet necessary. Does that make sense?
I guess I would do something like masks are required, comma, even for those who are vaccinated. And then it's just, they're required, period. Like, just don't take the freaking thing off, right?
Well, and I guess to me, the masks are required covers whether you're vaccinated or not, and then we don't have to include something that could be controversial with vaccines and things in the policy.
So the idea is not to trigger the whole vaccine passport debate.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I've just been in enough places now. The day that the Supreme Court struck down the mask mandate, even though Dane County still had one, I was in Target and a guy came walking in with his I have a healthy immune system and no mask, even though all over the doors it says masks required. I just, I mean, I'm just feeling like not including vaccines kind of sets people up, the staff in particular, up for people saying, well, but I'm vaccinated. And so just adding that even for those who are vaccinated, just that's the policy, period. Even if you're vaccinated.
So to Carlene's point, if I change it to say masks are required for everyone, do we think that that would cover, Carlene, your concern while not using language that would trigger those who might be sensitive to the wording? You said masks are required for everyone. Would that address it?
That would be better. I mean, I think that that's more inclusive of even if you're vaccinated.
And then the other thing to some of Carlene's points were if the county repeals their mandate, and we don't know if that's going to happen, next month or if it'll be 6 months, and we really don't know. So if it would be help approve this, what we could do is say approve the policy and then just plan to discuss this at the very next meeting after Dane County, should Dane County repeal their mandate, so that we can talk about if it's the right time for us to follow suit, or if we feel like it's necessary to update this at that time. Would that help address some of the concerns as well?
It certainly would for me. I think that first we have to remember that we probably have the most conservative as far as public health measures, public health departments in the state of Wisconsin, maybe even in the country. So when they do finally make the decision to repeal the mask, I think that we probably can feel that it's probably the safe thing to do, because they have definitely taken the most conservative approach. And Dane County's numbers honestly show that, right? Where our county is lower than the state average and the number of infections in Wisconsin right now is lower than the national average. So Dane County's been doing a great job with that. And I think once they do repeal it, it's worthy of a discussion, because, we have to talk about post that repeal, what would be the reasons for keeping masks? So it would be a good discussion at that time.
Okay, so it sounds like I need a motion to approve the COVID guidelines with the addition of masks are required for everyone under the mask section, and the understanding that once the mask mandate is repealed by Dane County, we will review the policy and update as needed. Does that, can I have someone make that motion?
Coral will make that motion.
Is there
I'll
a second?
second.
Thank you, Carlene.
Kyle, you're out of a job.
I tried to unmute myself very quickly.
So any questions or discussion? Okay, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, thank you. Lastly, closing and future agenda items. We will have our joint meeting with the Village Board June 7th at 5 p.m. tentatively, unless something changes, we'll plan for that. Our library board next meeting is the June 9th at 5 p.m. That's our annual meeting. So we'll be voting on officers, going through some different things for the annual meeting. Are there any future agenda items anyone wants to add at this time?
I know we've already talked to Jennifer about the specific ones that we need on the next couple agendas. For the next agenda for review of the questions for the library board about the director evaluation. Do we need an agenda item next round, or am I misremembering what month is which?
I think the personnel committee was going to meet between now and the June meeting for the library board. If you're just distributing the evaluation to board members, we don't have to have a conversation about it. It could be an informational item. If you need feedback on the questions from the board as to what questions to ask, then it should be an agenda item. Can you refresh my memory which we needed?
I believe we will need input from the board on the questions asked, because we intend to clarify a little bit about the role of the director, as well as the specific, I'm sorry, I'm a small human talking in my ear as well. We need to give a better, clear description of the role of the library director, and then tie the questions that we're asking to our expectations of you as the library director. There we go. That was a succinct way to say that.
Yeah, and I apologize, Coral. I thought I misunderstood that the personnel committee was going to do that at the committee level, so I apologize, but we can make sure that goes on the June library board agenda, no problem.
Am I misremembering? Maybe someone else on the committee can correct me if I am wrong.
I need to go back and check notes, Coral, because I don't remember that.
Either way, we can either have an informational or an action item, I guess.
Absolutely.
I apologize if I have just muddied the waters greatly.
We're in the evaluation process. Stay tuned.
Okay, any other future agenda items that need to be added? Okay, then I need a motion to adjourn, please.
So moved.
I'll second that.
I don't know who won the motion.
No, it sounds like Carrie maybe, and then I don't know, someone else with the second, and Kyle as well. So all in favor of adjournment, say aye.
Aye.
Bye.
Great, thank you guys so much. We did it in an hour, so
Woohoo.
awesome. Thanks everybody.
Bye.
Have a great night.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, everybody.